It is Nikita's Jervy of Kita's Peace, and I am back with another FN Friday message. I am super excited because these last three Friday messages are going to be so awesome. Number one, so this week and next week I have special guests. It'll just be one-on-one, and then September 7th is FN Friday night. You guys have to come out. It's going to be epic. I have speakers that are going to talk on a specific F word, and it's just going to be so awesome. So today is Finance Friday. Today is Finance Friday. I always start with the definition, and that's what I'm going to do today. Finance is defined as the management of large amount of money, especially by governments or large companies, or the monetary resources and affairs of a country, organization, or person. Once again, finance is defined as the management of large amounts of money, especially by the governments or large companies, or the monetary resources and affairs of a country, organization, or person. My special guest is a beast in the finance game. He has been a financial advisor for 10 years, but more importantly, he's been my boo for the last 8. Give it up for my husband, Paul Jervy.
Hey, y'all.
So, Paul, let me make sure I get that up there right. Okay.
All right.
So, Paul, what I know about finances is that when you get paid, you're supposed to pay God, you're supposed to pay yourself, you're supposed to pay your bills, and then everybody else fights for the rest. Is that right?
That's true.
Okay.
That's true. So, first off, I want to say that I'm so excited and happy and proud of my wife for creating this business and everything that it's meant to so many people. And she's literally just got started. So I can't wait to see what God is going to do. I'm so proud of you and I'm so happy for you. So I have the gift of gab, and she made it clear that I'm under a strict time frame. So I am going to talk about some of the financial topics that we have facing us. And I always like to give, some credibility statements because I am very credible in this area. As she said, I've been in the finance industry for over 10 years. And I work with a wonderful group of clients. And currently I work for Edward Jones as our financial advisor. And I have the Wilmington, Delaware office and serve there. But for today's topic, I want to talk about 6 keys to realize financial manifestation. So 6 keys to realize financial manifestation. So she asked a question about budgeting. So when you hear the word budgeting, most people tense up because they don't really like budgeting, because budgeting means that I have to stick to strict guidelines and this is how much I'm supposed to spend, and I can't go over this amount of money. And so nobody really likes budgeting, but it is somewhat of a necessary evil until the financial engine, so to speak, starts to run as a well-oiled machine. Now, the first thing that you should do on your budget, and it's literally just taking a piece of paper, writing out what your income is, and then all of your expenses. The very first thing that you should do is write out how much your tithe is supposed to be to your local church. The Bible talks about tithing before the law. It talks about it after the law. It talks about it briefly in the New Testament. And tithing is incredibly important. And we hear about tithing, and a lot of churches teach it through based on the book of Malachi in chapter 3. And it talks about will a man rob God, and where have you robbed me in tithes and offerings? And so tithing is literally a way for God to see if he can trust you. And so if you're saying to God that I'm willing to give you 10% of everything that comes into my household, and then I'm going to function with the other 90%, that's how God knows that you can trust him. But now the important thing that I like to point out to a lot of the clients is that the 90% that you have left over still belongs to God too. And so the Bible talks about that in Psalms. It says the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So we are here on this earth to be stewards over the resources that God has given us. And so the 90% that's left over is technically a test too, because if we're not doing a good job over that 90%, then you have to look at it as if I'm an employee working for a boss and he says, well, these are my responsibilities, and I'm not doing well over those responsibilities, but then I get asking for a raise. 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to be able to get the raise. And so we have to look at tithing in that fashion. So the 10% is definitely a test, but the 90%, so really the whole 100% is a test. Now, once you do your tithing, you want to make sure that you give an offering on top of that. Giving an offering to your man of God is a wonderful thing. Giving a seed over and above your normal tithes and offerings is very, very good as well. Now, once you've got that squared away, we all have heard the term pay yourself first. Pay yourself first literally means that whatever your financial goals are, the amount of money that you're setting aside each month to keep yourself on track to accomplishing those goals.
Okay.
So some examples are, people will set money aside in an emergency fund. Some people will set aside money to put extra on debt. Some people will put money aside for their kids' college, for retirement, those sorts of things. So that is what pay yourself first means. And then once you do that, then you pay all your bills. Now, what I used to do when we were struggling early on is, I pay a little bit on the electric bill and I pay a little bit on the cable bill. And, and I pay maybe a little bit on the cell phone bill, but just enough so that they wouldn't cut it off. And so that was my way of looking at my budget and saying, man, I got a lot of money left over so that we can spend some. And that's not the way that you want to go about it. Now, I get it. If people have, financial challenges, then there's certain strategies for that can be discussed at another time. Right. But for the most part, you want to pay your bills on time in full. So the easiest way to do this is to establish 2 checking accounts. One checking account is where all your income goes into, and then you have another checking account that you allocate for your fund money, your unaccounted for spending, because spending is really what gets people into a lot of trouble. Because if you spend too much, then you don't have anything to save, and then that puts you behind the 8 ball if you're trying to plan for specific financial goals. The easiest way to do this is for your bills, your paying yourself first strategies, your saving strategies, and even your fund money is to set it up automatic. And the reason why you set it up and make it automatic is because some of us, and I know even me being a financial expert, early on did not have the discipline to do it myself, because I would try and figure out how much can I move over into this fund money so that I could take her out, I could do something for the girls, and I could do things of that nature. So you want to set up the bill account. All your money goes into it. All of your bills are set up on an automatic. And if you want to just do it manually, that's fine. But all the bills come out of that account. And then you set money aside into the fund money account. And that's where you do your spending. Now, when you do your spending, the trick here is that once the fund money has gotten down to 0, you're done spending for the month. That's it. And that is hard. Especially when, your friends may want to go out and do something. You may want to do something. You really have to control your flesh, because, again, that's where, what I view the enemy will get to you and say, that's okay. Take that money out of that savings account. Take that money out of that investment account and go ahead and put it in the fund money account. It's okay. You'll make it back. And then what happens is that becomes a regular thing. Right. And then you start to dip into monies that were supposed to be used for other things. So that's why you want to set those things up automatic. When you think of spending, you want to think of the parable of the talents that Jesus talks about in Matthew 25. Then Matthew 25, when he talks about the parable of the talents, he literally says that he divides the talents based on their several abilities. So for one man, he gave 5 talents. For another man, he gave 2. And then for another man, he gave 1. And the reason why he separated it that way was because of their abilities. See, your ability has to increase when it comes to the overall management of finances. You have to try and gain some knowledge, some basic knowledge. You don't have to be an expert, but some basic knowledge so that you can show God that I am trying to increase my ability in this area so that I can be able to manage more. And so when the man with 5 talents got his, and then when his master came back, he came back with another 5. When the one that had 2, his master came back, he had 2. But the one that had 1, he went and buried it and came back with that same 1, and his master was very upset with him. And if you read Matthew 25, you'll see, what happens when you're slothful over resources. And so that, again, is why we're supposed to be stewards over the resources of the earth. And that's what elevates increase in our life. So that's key number 1, budgeting. Okay, so make sure that you tithe, give your offerings, have your 2 checking accounts set up, and then also make sure that you make it automatic. Now, number 2 is an emergency fund. An emergency fund is crucial because people go into debt because they don't have money to fall back on when emergencies come up. Something happened to the car, something happened to the house, or just a major expense came up. And so what happens is that debt column on your balance sheet continues to build up because you don't have any resources to be able to fund that emergency. So in a traditional sense, you should have 3 to 6 months of your expenses saved up in an emergency fund. And again, as you're saving to build that up, you want to make that automatic as well. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I'm in debt and I want to pay this down. So should I pay off the debt first and then build the emergency fund, or should I build the emergency fund and then the debt? I have clients that do a combination of things. It really is up to you. And so what I generally prefer is that people build up the emergency fund first before they start putting extra on debt, because what you don't want to do is run into a situation where now you're ready to start paying down debt and then you have to take out more debt, because it's hard to fill up a bucket when there's a hole at the bottom.
Right.
So, so now that is key number 2. Key number 3 is life insurance. People run from life insurance agents because they believe that the life insurance agent, all they're trying to do is sell you a bunch of insurance so that they can get a commission. But life insurance is very, very crucial, and it is a major piece, but it's also a strategy for generational wealth, because the Bible talks about generational wealth. But more importantly, with life insurance, especially if you're married or if you're younger and you have student loans and you have a mortgage, when you pass away, God forbid it happens to anybody watching soon, but when you pass away, somebody inherits that debt. So we all like to talk about an inheritance that we get, a positive inheritance that has an impact on our life, but sometimes people do receive negative inheritances.
Right.
And so this is where the life insurance comes into play. And so usually for just, basic plans, I instruct people just to go buy yourself some term life insurance, to cover yourself for how long you think it's going to cover you, to pay off those debts and things of that nature, just to make sure that your family is taken care of. But also, too, if you have young children, you need some life insurance. If you're married, your income, if you pass away, is going to be lost. And so your family, you don't want your family to miss a beat. So, it might be advantageous to sit down with a financial advisor or sit down with an insurance agent and just go through an analysis to see, in fact, how much insurance you need. But it is one of the keys to financial increase and generational wealth. Now, debt management. This is a major topic, and this is key number 4. Debt management is a huge conversation for a lot of people that I sit down with, and you need to have a strategy to get yourself out of debt. And again, my recommendation is that you do the debt strategy after the emergency fund is set up. And so now, if you're going into debt for something, the question that you have to ask yourself is this a need or is this a want that I'm about to accrue this debt for? Because I'm going to be making payments to pay this thing off. So is it a need or is it a want? So, I had a client that bought a really expensive car, but their financial goals aren't on track. So meaning their retirement wasn't on track, and that was their primary financial goal. So from a financial aspect, if you're going to go into debt for, a $50,000 or more type of a car, but your other goals aren't on track, and you're now about to use that money to pay down the debt on this car, but your goals aren't on track, the question that you have to ask yourself is, am I being a good steward over the resources that God has given me? And so a lot of times I hear people tell me, well, Paul, I believe God and God's going to take care of it. God's going to take care of me when I get to retirement. And the answer is no, he won't. He absolutely will not. And so let me clarify this. Bishop Jakes has a new book out called Soar, and it's for entrepreneurs and really people getting started out in entrepreneurship. But one of the analogies that he talks about is, he says that God made trees. God made trees, but men made chairs. God never made a chair. Man made the chair. God gave us the tree to build a house, to build a boat. Noah built the boat, but God didn't build the boat. Noah built the boat. He gave Noah the tree so that he could get the wood to build the boat.
Right.
So God is saying, I'm giving you a tree that can be so much. You have to imagine what that tree can turn into. It's a tree. So God's saying, I'm giving you the tree. And you think about it as an example, I'm giving you a husband or I'm giving you a wife. Imagine what it could be. I'm giving you a child. Imagine what it could be. I'm giving you a business. Imagine what it could be. The problem is that the church has taught us to pray for chairs and tables. And God's saying, I don't do that.
Come on.
I don't do that. God is saying, I give you trees. And so this takes us back to where we have to be a good steward and increase our ability, because God wants to see if we're going to increase our ability to be able to make the chair, to be able to make the table, to build the boat. So if you're thinking that, well, I'll just spend what I need to spend and God's going to take care of me when I get to retirement, God's not going to send you a check. And you can try and wait and see what happens, but I'm pretty sure God's not going to send you a check. So key number 4 is debt management. Make sure that you increase your ability and you put a strategy together to get yourself out of debt. Key number 5 is invest your money. Ecclesiastes 11, I'm not going to go into it, but it talks about diversification. And so in order to identify the type of diversification that you need to have when you're building an investment portfolio, you need to identify how much risk you're willing to take and how much time you're willing to invest before you're going to need that money. So it's really good to seek out some investment counsel before you kind of dip into it, because it's not as easy as it looks. And there's a lot of things that trigger the stock market to go up and the stock market to go down. I talk to all clients about it every time they come into a review meeting, because I need them to understand these are certain things that could trigger the stock market to go down. And if the stock market goes down based on the strategy that we have in place, here's how much you're going to go down by, but it's not going to affect our overall financial goal. So you want to invest for your retirement, create a vision for your retirement. Think about what you want retirement to be, and create a time frame as to when you want to be able to pull that trigger. Invest for college education if that is a goal that you have and you have the resources to be able to do it. To be able to put something away. Something is better than nothing. So that key is invest your money. The last key, number 6, is create an estate plan. You need to create an estate plan, because most people will think that I have to have $1 million net worth to build an estate plan. I have to be a multimillionaire to have an estate plan. Everybody needs an estate plan. If you are married, you need an estate plan. If you have children, you need an estate plan. And so I'm giving you guys some information, for free, because you're my wife's listeners, but I do charge for this. But with an estate plan, you need to create a will. You need to work with an attorney to create a will. If you have young children, you need to have guardianship documentation set up. You also need powers of attorney, both medical and financial. And the medical one is called a healthcare directive. Who is going to make those financial decisions for you if you're mentally incapacitated to do so? Who's going to make medical decisions and financial decisions if you're unable to do so? And so if you do not set up an estate plan for yourself, the state in which you live in will create an estate plan for you. And trust me, you will not like the plan that they set up. So those are 6 keys to realizing financial manifestation. And so my wife always likes to send you guys off with a challenge. So she's given me the opportunity to be able to send you guys off with a challenge. So this challenge for this week is to identify your retirement vision. Identify your retirement vision. Now, when I talk to people about retirement, most people think of I'm getting up there in age and I'm sitting at home collecting a check, not really doing anything. That's not what retirement is. Retirement is literally, number 1, to have the option at a certain age to say, if I wanted to leave this job today, I could, and me and my family are going to be okay. To have that option. And so with that option to say, I'm going to only work half the amount of time that I'm working now at this age. Or I'm going to completely stop doing what I'm doing and move into doing something that I love doing. Or I'm not going to work anywhere and earn another paycheck. I'm just going to volunteer because I've done well, God's blessed me, and the resources that I've amassed are going to take care of me and my family. So those are the types of retirements that you want to think about as you're thinking of your vision. So ask yourself, when you think of your retirement vision, based on what I'm doing today, am I doing what's necessary to make that retirement vision come to pass? So again, those are 6 keys to realizing financial manifestation. Number 1, budgeting. Number 2, create an emergency fund. Number 3, life insurance. Number 4, debt management. Number 5, invest your money. And number 6, create an estate plan and make sure that you put that tithe in and that you give in your pastor's love offering and your over and above offering as well. My dear, thank you, boo. And my
Thank
peachy.
you. Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know that this blessed you. I know that this just rocked us off. You weren't expecting this. You were not expecting all of those nuggets to come from this man. So I am grateful. This is my boo. Okay. I pray that this bless you. My name is Nikita Jervey, the Peace Promoter. Come back next Friday. I'm going to have another guest who I believe is a expert in that topic. That's going to be next Friday. It's going to be awesome.
She's not gonna let y'all know.
Come back next Friday. And also register for Effing Friday night. It's going to be epic. Okay, it's going to be more like nuggets like this from other speakers that are experts in their area of expertise. Is going to be awesome. I pray this bless you. See you next week. Love you. Bye.